Welcome to this week's installment of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale with Don Henniger. I'm Don. With me is my podcast wingman, Kevin Maxwell.
Hello, Commander. How are you?
I'm awesome, Kevin. I'm awesome because we have another show doing this week.
Here we go.
And we always do good shows, don't we?
Every time.
You know why?
Well, because it's Scottsdale.
It's Scottsdale. And there's great people in this town.
Endless supply of great stories.
We got two more today. Today we're going to focus on Arizona's veterans and a new organization, kind of new since June or so, I guess, designed to help them out. With us this week is Anna Minier and Derek Debus. They're with the Arizona Veterans Missions Group. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you so much for having us. Super excited.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you. Hey, so the group is a nonprofit organization serving Arizona veterans, and its mission is to provide legal assistance to veterans, ensuring that they receive the care, the resources, and the opportunities that they've so richly earned. Their mission statement is to diminish the challenges of those individuals and families who have served for our country while supporting veterans with the gratitude we have as communities and a country for their sacrifices and their service. Right up the line here, Kevin.
It's a great mission. You can't ask for a better mission statement than that.
Fantastic. And, Anna, you've been super involved in the Scottsdale community. We've seen you in a number of different roles, and now we see you in this one. Derek, you're a Scottsdale attorney with Stone Rose Law and a Marine veteran. So we've got two really good guests to talk about this really good cause here today, that's for sure. Anna, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and why you were motivated to help start this group.
Sure. So as you said, Scottsdale has been my home for a while. I've been in various positions from the chamber, Scottsdale leadership. I'm currently a commissioner with the city as well, which I love. And so through different connections, a friend of mine, Craig Rosenstein, who's part of the board of directors of this organization, came to me and said, hey, we need some help. And they needed a little help rebranding. They actually started the organization in April of 2022. So it has been around a while. Just took a little hiatus. So we needed to bring it back to life, really clean up our mission, see exactly what's needed out there and how we can fill those holes. So that's where I came in. Our organization works with various law firms, depending on our veterans' needs. So veterans come through Arizona Veterans Mission Group, letting me know what the problem is. We do tend to focus on military and veterans law. So, access to benefits, different things that involve their service and time, in the military. But we also can help them with, different things. If criminal comes up or, different situations that they can get into that sometimes can be related back to their service. We can assist. Those are normally at a lower cost, whereas we do provide pro bono work for the military law side of things. So just making sure they get the right access, fair access, and I think Derek will hit on that a little bit. But that's where we are. We fill that legal void. There's a lot of veterans organizations providing all the other various well-needed services. The way I see where we fit in is if we can get them the benefits they deserve, they won't end up needing food assistance, housing assistance, things like that. So I want to stop them from having to get to that point.
So hang on to those details because we're going to go deep on some of them before. But in your background, tell us something that you think we don't know about you. Because we know you very well. We always learn new things about our guests. So give us one thing that you don't think we know about you.
See, I asked for setup questions, and Kevin's like, "No, it's
we don't
nothing.
do that.
You're just gonna hit me like that."
We don't do that.
Gosh, I don't know.
Tell us about your descent. What's your descent?
Oh, I'm Latvian heritage. Okay, so that's actually interesting.
Perfect.
So I ran orphanages in the Ukraine.
There you go.
I ran pharmacies there for a long time. So that whole situation has really affected me. But
that's what we're talking about.
That is something you would not know about me. That's correct.
Thank you. There's always
Kevin.
something, There's always something. Derek, I love your background. I did a little checking on you, including you had some time in London.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some things, and you served in the Marines. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started with this, and let us get to know you a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Derek Debus. I'm the Director of Military and Veterans Law at Stone Rose Law. I'm the lead attorney and board member at Arizona Veterans Mission Group. Getting out of high school, like most people, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I joined the Marine Corps. Spent 7 years as an infantryman and eventually a combat instructor at the School of Infantry, teaching baby Marines how to be real Marines.
Baby Marines.
Yeah, those little double pups.
I could just see going through that camp. You're a baby Marine, man. Come on.
I got hurt pretty bad as a combat instructor. I messed my back and my shoulder up pretty severely, and I ended up getting medically separated out after 7 years. And as I started going through figuring out what I wanted to do next, I ended up in law school. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to go to med school, but I realized I didn't do any actual science prereqs in undergrad. So I figured the next best thing was be a lawyer. And as I was going through law school, I started finding out about what kind of VA benefits I would have access to, and I started to try and fight to get them. And it was a struggle. Eventually I got there, but I thought, man, like if I'm having this much difficulty as a law student, as somebody that, is a little smarter than most average bears, this has just got to be impossible for most of the folks who I served with who, have such struggles getting and dissecting all of these crazy complex regulations. So I always kind of kept the VA stuff in the back of my mind. In law school, I worked for the Crown Prosecution Service in London, England. I assisted on, murder, rape, homicide, terrorist trials, not crimes, the trials.
Right, sure.
Just want to clear that up.
Yeah, you're on the other side of that aisle, right?
Yeah. When I graduated law school, I worked here in Maricopa County with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office before, Craig Rosenstein, one of the board members, poached me from the prosecutor's office to come be one of his criminal defense attorneys. And I started representing a lot of veteran clients who didn't have their benefits. And like Anna said, I realized, so much of what's happening, so much of the things that are causing these issues, they got drunk and they drove. They got drunk and they got in a fight with their brother. They shoplifted because they didn't have any bread in the house. A lot of these things could be alleviated by getting these folks access to their treatment and access to their disability benefits. So I went to Craig and I said, Craig, I got this crazy idea. I don't think it's going to, make us any money, but I think it's the right thing to do. And he's like, love it. Let's do it. Jumped in with both feet. And here we are.
That's fabulous. So where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
So I grew up in Michigan, downriver of Detroit. The kind of like this is all called the Valley here.
Right.
In Michigan, kind of everything south of Detroit is considered downriver because of the Detroit River.
Gotcha. Right.
So I grew up downriver in Detroit in a relatively poor suburb. And when I was stationed in California, getting out because I messed up my back and shoulder, I realized I couldn't afford to stay in California. And even if I could, I didn't really want to. But I didn't want to go back to Michigan because I don't like the laws there. And the snow is terrible.
It is. You're right.
So I looked at a map and I said, I've got 3 days of liberty. Where can I go in 3 days to look, find a house, make an offer? And I picked Phoenix. And thank goodness, because I love it here. I live in Scottsdale now and just love it here
Fantastic.
in Arizona.
Well, what was the London connection? How did you end up in London? I know who you worked for over there, but how did that come about?
Just got a random email in my law school inbox that was like, hey, we're looking for kind of like an exchange program.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I thought, well, what's the worst they could say? No.
We got a couple cases like that where somebody's got an email and it's led to a whole career opportunity.
Listen to both of you talk. It sounds like this opportunity has kind of presented itself to you, right? I mean, it's obvious what needed to be done. And like Anna, as you said, you have a niche little nonprofit you're serving here, but it sounds like it just kind of rose up and picked both of you and said, we need your help.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done in this space, but only something like 1.5% of Americans have served. So there's not a lot of people who know about veterans benefits or know about what veterans have access to by virtue of their service. So there's a lot of folks who don't know where the gaps are and don't know that they need to be filled. So, like you said, it just kind of grabbed us and, enlisted us into this fight.
Great cause.
Absolutely.
Great cause.
Yeah, and I'm not a veteran or a lawyer. So when I'm out talking to people, they're like, how are you involved? But I have a passion, right? I have a passion for these people that have given so much to our country. I was also heavily involved with the Elks Lodge, working with their veterans and things like that. So, it worked out for me to kind of help resurrect, what this mission was, started to do. And with Derek and his team, there's a lot of veterans on the team, so whoever you're talking to has an idea of what you're going through. And it's just been such a pleasure to work with them and to see the difference that we're making.
So what are some of the programs that are most used that you find to be the most useful or the biggest demand with the veterans that you serve? What are some of the programs that you roll out for them?
That's a great question. I'll kind of break it up into what programs I think are most utilized on the VA side, and then what issues and programs we help out with most. I would say probably the two biggest benefits or the three biggest benefits that are used by veterans are their VA home loan. Veterans with an honorable discharge have access to a very, very lucrative home loan opportunity where they don't have to put any money down. The seller's got to cover some of their closing costs. They get a guaranteed low interest rate, and they don't have to pay PMI. The VA covers that. So it's an incredible opportunity for veterans to be able to purchase and own a home. And I would say that's probably the number one benefit that folks use. After that would likely be education benefits, either their Montgomery or their post 9/11 GI Bill or vocational rehab to allow them to get that job training and that education to get into the career that they want. And then the third would probably be the healthcare service. VAs, I think, is one of the largest providers of healthcare here in the country. So they see millions of veterans a year and provide good quality healthcare. Everyone's got their complaints about every healthcare provider, but ironically or statistically, surveys show that veterans are more satisfied with their healthcare through the VA than they are through most private.
Really?
I was surprised
surprising.
too. I was surprised too, but it's true. It's what the surveys say.
Huh, that's interesting. Kevin, I've heard of the education and the healthcare benefits. That's the first time I've heard of the home loan program, though. Is that something you think that most veterans know? Is there communication about that? Do veterans actually know it's out there? How does that work?
I think a lot of veterans do. What the services have really done a much better job, and they're not perfect yet, but what they've done a much better job of over the last 15 to 20 years is forcing vets to go through a transition class where, hey, here are your VA benefits. Here's how you access them. Now, they're hit or miss, and they could be better. But I think that most veterans are at least aware of their home loan. I get a lot of calls, particularly on the discharge upgrade side, where vets are only looking to be able to use their home loan eligibility.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think I bet you all the realtors know about it, though.
What do you think? Do you think realtors know about that? Would they offer that with a program? Because how does that work?
I would say it's hit or miss. Every realtor I've worked with has known about it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's difficult to find a lender that is familiar with the program. I know that some realtors don't like working with VA clients because they find the out-of-pocket costs, that requirements for a VA loan. The fact that a veteran's not supposed to pay anything out of pocket. Right. They think it's makes it more difficult to negotiate. But I mean, I've worked with some incredible realtors in my time here in Arizona, and everyone has been able to leverage the VA home loan to our advantage rather than as a disadvantage.
Does that make a dent in all, do you guys think, in terms of the housing affordability issue, or is that just two separate issues that aren't related to each other?
I'd say probably a little unrelated because, on a macro level, so few Americans by percentage are actually eligible for a VA home loan. And the interest rates are a little bit better. There's no need to put a down payment down, so vets can end up getting into a little bit more house than they otherwise would be able to. So I think if anything, it probably helps the housing market a little bit.
Use all that we can get, particularly in Scottsdale, right? We talk about that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Similar question what Don asked earlier. What do you think is the most number one issue facing veterans that come to you? Is it getting access to disability type payments or what? Yeah,
so probably a solid 90%, 95%, maybe even a little bit more percent of my VA cases, my VA clients are veterans who have incurred disabilities as a result of their service and are having complications or trouble getting the VA to grant them benefits for those. Going all the way back to the end of the Civil War, Abe Lincoln said, look, if you served our country, we are going to take care of you. And the VA, for their part, does a pretty solid job of that. It's kind of verboten to say as an attorney that does this kind of work, but, I only see the bad decisions. I don't see the millions of good decisions that VA puts out. And they do make good decisions. But unfortunately, at the VA, you've got folks who may or may not have a bachelor's degree who are being kind of ramrodded through training to adjudicate an intensely complicated regulatory scheme while analyzing it in the context of very complicated medical facts and medical principles to make a decision. And it's just a lot. People are always like, oh, the VA is out to get me. The VA wants to deny. No, that's not the case. Yeah. Nobody works at the VA because they hate veterans. For the most part.
that's relieving. That's good to know, anyway. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the issue. Every time I've never once had a case where I felt like the VA was out to get my client or they were malicious, with one notable exception. But It's just you have people who have too much work on their plate, too complex of a job with not nearly enough training, and they're kind of encouraged to learn on the job. And when you learn on the job, you make a bunch of mistakes.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, one thing I'd like veterans to know that listen to this is like the VA is not out to get you. The VA wants to help you. They just don't know how to get out of their own way sometimes.
Absolutely. And, when we're out at events and we're talking to our veterans, a lot of them just give up on the system because it gets complicated. And, I hear it a lot. And, like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to, go through the effort. I've done some stuff. It's too confusing. And that's where, Derek and Stone Rose and the team can come in. This is what they do all day long. And so they know how to answer those questions because I'm not a veteran. I'll say, whatever, but I think they do make it difficult, to be honest with you. I think it could be done easier. I think that's, something we need to talk to our elected officials about, but it's what's happening. A lot of people just give up. And it's unfortunate because they deserve all of these benefits that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So to let them know that there's a group here that can help them, navigate this difficult process is really important.
So as a director of a nonprofit, you've got to worry about raising money too, right?
Oh, yes.
How's that going?
It's actually going great. So, it was a slower start because we did do a full rebrand and these things. And, me coming in without the experience of being a veteran, I didn't know certain things. I didn't know there were 8 types of discharges from the military. I had no clue. I thought there was honorable and dishonorable. And if you were dishonorable, it's because you did something wrong. That is not true. Maybe in some cases it's true. But, there's so many different areas to this that it's if you haven't experienced it, good for you. Because if you have, you've been going through some hard times. And so when it comes to fundraising, it's not something I can be like, look at these pictures of us feeding 200 veterans lunch. That's not what we're doing, which is an amazing cause. We work with, groups that do that. But, with confidentiality reasons, because we are working in legal, areas. And again, it's people just kind of glaze over because there's so many different layers to this problem that it's harder to just be like, hey, we're giving a veteran a car. Like, people can understand that. Like, okay, they deserve a car. Thank you for your service. This is so much deeper. So I actually get goosebumps when I talk about it because, we have to find those people that want to try to understand, or at least know that we understand and we can help those people that aren't out there that you're seeing every day. You're seeing them, but you don't know they're going through these problems, right? So it's a very different nonprofit scenario compared to other ones I've been in.
So do you have events coming up that you can get exposure and raise money that way? Or what are some of your fundraising tactics that you're using?
Yeah, so we do. And again, this is a year of learning. I just came into this position in June. And so a few of our amazing partners so far, Scottsdale Rodeo, which is now passed, but actually gave us a section of seats for us to sell. So every seat we sold was 100% back to the organization, which was really, really cool. So thank you to another Scottsdale organization. Actually, this weekend, coming up on the April 20th, Phoenix Rising is doing their military night. We're going to be one of their partners there where we get a percentage of some of the ticket sales. So doing different things like that. We were out at Arizona Scottsdale Bike Week. Different things just to kind of get our name out there. We attend a lot of the veteran stand-down events. So it's varying with public, with veterans. It's kind of all over the place. Still trying to fill that out. We did the Chandler Barbecue Festival. That was a lot of fun. But, our main cause for me, of course, fundraising is important because we do have costs we have to cover, but we need to let people know we're here. Mm-hmm. Let us, help you. And then we have these stories that I can go and then share with the community. We have some amazing success stories. So I bet it's different.
It sounds like what you guys do is kind of unique. And I know there's a lot of veterans fund nonprofits out there which do probably great work. Oh, yeah. But it sounds like you guys are pretty unique because it'd be easy just to, like I said, give them a lunch, a one-time deal, or write them a small check just to kind of help them get by that week. But you were giving them long-term sustainable resources, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think we really are in a different spot. And we work with a lot of the local veterans organizations because I feel everybody should do something really well. And then we can all work together. You don't have to do everything. Do something really well. And then, if one of our clients needs another service and we have connections with that group, great, and vice versa. But yeah, when it comes to our service, it's just completely different. And hopefully not needed at some point, but here we are.
Derek, I've heard some chatter about being an accredited attorney or not accredited attorney when it comes to Veterans Affairs. So is there a difference there between the qualifications you need as an attorney to serve in this space?
Absolutely. So in order to represent any veteran for compensation before the VA, you have to be accredited by the Department of Veterans Affairs. As an attorney, that means that I have to fill out an application. I have to provide certificates of good standing from the bar associations I'm a member of. They have to do a background check, and my conduct is regulated by the VA. Up until 2006, it was actually illegal. It was a crime to charge a veteran if you were not accredited. When the NDAA in 2006 got passed, the actual provision that made it a crime was accidentally written out. Since then, a kind of cottage industry of what we call claim sharks has popped up. Folks who are not accredited by the VA, who do not charge lawful fees, and who do subpar work, or in worst cases, in some instances, even commit fraud on behalf of the veteran. And it's a huge problem facing the industry right now, because veterans are I don't want to say afraid of the VA, but they're reluctant to go to the VA because, for better or worse, the VA has the reputation that the VA has, and these organizations say, hey, we will guarantee this is what you're going to get. Well, I'm an attorney. I don't guarantee anything ever. I can say that I'm going to fight until the end and make sure that the law and the facts are properly applied, but I'm not going to guarantee a result. But if you're a veteran who doesn't know any better, and somebody who sounds like they know what they're doing is saying, I guarantee I'm going to get you what you deserve, well, of course you're going to say, yeah, I'll pay you 5 times whatever disability rating I get, even though that's a completely illegal and exorbitant fee that nobody listening to this should ever pay. But they'll do that. So there is a huge difference between working with an unaccredited person and an accredited attorney or agent. Namely, the most important thing is the amount of access to information that they have. So as a VA accredited attorney, I get immediate access to the claims file once the VA gets around to processing the paperwork that tells them I'm going to be representing somebody. Claims sharks don't get that. And the way that I liken it to is, imagine if you were going to trial, but you didn't see any of the evidence against you and you didn't even know what the allegations were. That's insane.
Yeah, right.
But that's what these companies do. They fly by night. They have figured out how to game the rating schedule to get ratings that may or may not be appropriate. And in so doing, they're charging exorbitant fees to do so, and costing veterans not only a significant amount of time and potential retroactive pay, but they're actually risking these veterans for future prosecution.
Wow. So one of the first things a vet ought to do is ask, are you accredited or not accredited as an attorney, right?
100%. If anybody is looking to help you with your VA benefits, first question should be, are you accredited by the Department of Veterans Affairs?
Yeah, good. That's good. That's a good tip to take away, isn't it?
Sounds like there's a lot of crossover between that and the Social Security Administration, people trying to get disability benefits who are not veterans.
Yeah,
Is there?
A lot of, so I don't do any Social Security disability work. The only disability work I do is relating to veterans benefits. But a lot of folks do both Social Security disability as well as veterans disability.
Is that right?
Yeah, they do.
Same technique, same stuff, right?
Well, a lot of them are accredited.
Oh, okay.
And they do well. They do okay. What I tell my clients is look, I'm a trial lawyer by trade. I approach every case like I have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and I have experience poking holes in the government's theory of the case. That is what I do, and that's how I approach every single case. When you have been doing something for so long where you're working with a lower evidentiary standard, well, it's easy to kind of throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But that's not what we do. If we're going to put something forward, we're going to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court if we have to.
That's good to know. Let's talk about some success stories, because I think you probably both have some. So, Anna, what's your favorite success story, or a couple of them if you have them?
Well, I think I'll kind of jump ahead of Derek a little bit because he'll give you more of the details. But one of the things we're doing, we talked about fundraising and sustainability of the organization. As we're, helping these veterans, it's so beautiful and amazing that when they do get their benefits, they're starting to donate back to the organization to help the next person in line. So that, I think, to me is a complete testimony as to, what is happening here. Because, when they come to us, they're in a bad spot, and we can change that. And then all of a sudden, they're able to help the next person. I mean, it's beautiful. So Derek has more of the details on, the actual stories, because, again, me not being an attorney, I'm not privy to, everything that's going on. But I'd love for him to kind of talk about a few of our major wins.
Yeah,
so
let's hear it, yeah.
What do we do with the money that gets donated to the nonprofit? For folks who are not accustomed to veterans disability, we need to show 3 things. We need to show that there was an incident in service. We need to show a current disability. And we need to show a medical nexus between the current disability and that issue in service. Simply put, I was in the military. I jumped off a tank. I hurt my knee. I got out. My knee still hurts. They diagnosed me with arthritis. The arthritis is caused by the jumping off the tank. Simple. Where the problem comes is, the VA, partly in a cost-saving measure and partly because of just the sheer amount of claims that the VA gets, they don't have enough clinicians to do examinations and render opinions. So they rely on third-party companies. These third-party companies, in turn, hire some of the least qualified nurse practitioners and physician assistants you've ever thought of in your life. Which isn't to say that all of them are terrible, because they have some very, very good ones. But overwhelmingly, they'll ask a nurse practitioner who's board certified in gynecology about a Parkinson's case. Or the success story that I'm long-winded trying to get to was they sent a general practice or a gerontological nurse practitioner, so a nurse practitioner who specifically deals with the elderly, and they sent her an opinion about whether or not a veteran's brain cancer was at least as likely as not related to service. Well, nurse practitioners are great. They have an incredible role in healthcare, but one thing they are not qualified to do is determine the etiology or the origin of something like brain cancer. So in a case like that, our client, he had brain cancer. He wasn't able to work. He didn't have any funding. But what we need is an expert to review the file and determine, is there a connection here? So what we're able to do is get some funds from the charity, and we hired a board-certified oncologist who's a professor of radiation oncology at UCLA, literally wrote the book on how to do radiation oncology. And he looked through the file and said, look, this type of brain tumor at its slowest doubles at this rate. So, in 6 months it'll double, in 12 months it'll double. So by assuming that this is the world's slowest growing tumor, we can take that doubling rate and trace it back and show that he had this on active duty. And how else we know? We can look through the file and see that he's got headaches and dizziness and other hallmark signs of an astrocytoma. So we were able to take funds from the nonprofit to because, doctors like to get paid. Pretty much everybody does.
Right, sure.
And we were able to get that opinion. And as a result, we got the veteran over $150,000 in retroactive benefits. Nice. He is rated 100% permanent in total. His kids will have education benefits when they go to school. His wife has education benefits. He has dental coverage. His family has health care. And he's getting about $4,400 a month for the rest of his life, tax-free. Now, anybody would rather have no brain cancer than the money, but if you got to have the brain cancer, the compensation at least kind of takes a little bit of the sting off of it.
Of course,
that type of compensation is going to be life-changing for almost all of us, right? That's a big deal. And that's where, I originally stated, the work we do keeps them off of any of the other services. If we can get them this money they're owed fairly, it stops this whole process and it takes care of their families, which also sacrificed, during the service. So it's amazing the stuff
awesome.
The stories that need to be told.
Talk about some of the digital resources you have available, because you guys really put your money where your mouth is. You're not just out there talking about it. You have some resources that are really unique available to your veterans. What is that?
Yeah. So one of the things that Stone Rose Law, with their passion for veterans, has come up with is a disability calculator. I'm going to have Derek talk about it again since he's the expert, but it is an access that anyone can use. You can go on at your own pace. There's no pressure. Nobody's calling you unless you want us to, but something that is a beautiful tool to kind of see how it works. Also in that same location, there's educational videos. There's more information about how disability is calculated, all of those things. So Derek.
Okay, more long-winded speeches. Okay, so the first thing you got to understand, in terms of digital resources for veterans, on our website at Stone Rose Law and Arizona Veterans Mission Group, we have a ton of articles free of charge for veterans to learn about how disabilities are rated, how to apply for them, what they may be entitled to, and importantly, what other secondary conditions can come from that. So, veterans will come to me and they say, man, my back really hurts. I've got a bulging disc. I'm service connected for it. Oh man, I just wish my legs would stop feeling like they were getting electrocuted. And I'm thinking, well, those are related. Those are probably related. Let's check that out. So we've got a lot of information on our website. We've got a lot of information on our YouTube page. We film informational videos for veterans that, of course, they have access to free of charge. But one thing I'm really proud about is our disability calculator, and not just because it costs us a ton of money to develop it. So before I get into why our calculator is great and why it's such a good resource for vets, we got to understand how the VA does math. So ordinarily, 50 plus 50 equals 100. Right? We would agree? I'm a lawyer. I'm not a mathematician.
I'm with you. I'm a word guy, but I'm with you so far.
I'm just checking myself. Well, under VA math, 50 and 50 equals 90. Because they take, let's say we've got a veteran, right? And our veteran is 100% able-bodied right now, but he's got 2 disabilities at 50%. They say, okay, you're 100% well right now. We apply the first disability. You're now 50% disabled, 50% abled. Well, now the second 50%, actually 50 and 50 is 80. The second 50% applies to the 50% able-bodied percentage. We get 25. We add the 25 to the 50, that equals 75, which rounds up to 80. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if you're not a math nerd.
This is why there's a calculator.
Right. So what our calculator does really, really well is it does all of the math for you.
Okay.
And it gets even more complicated than that, because let's say you have a knee disability on both sides. Well, it's not simply 2 ratings for those knees. Those knee ratings actually get combined and then factored up. Because the VA recognizes that if you have disabilities on both sides of your body, you're more disabled than you are individually. Right? So like if both of your shoulders hurt, you have more of a disability than if one shoulder hurt or the other.
Yep.
So calculating that is also super, super important, because knowing your exact VA percentage lets you know, A, is it even worth it to go after more disabilities? If you're at, say, a flat 85% and you've only got like ringing in the ears, well, it's not going to make a lot of sense to claim it, because it's not going to get you anywhere. It'll move you up to 86%. So it helps veterans understand where they're at so they can plot out a smart claim strategy and not just throw stuff at the wall and get unintended consequences. So our calculator does that for you automatically. And our calculator, I think, has the best user interface out there. The VA's calculator is just boxes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't calculate a bilateral factor. It doesn't calculate additional compensation due to dependents. It just says, put your disabilities and your rating in here and we'll give you a number. Mm-hmm. Other calculators from other sites aren't as intuitive to use, and they can get a little confusing, whereas ours, you pick whatever body part's affected, you pick the percentage, and it will do all the math for you. And on top of that, we've also got all of the education on that same page. So veterans who just want to check and see where they're at or see what might happen after their claims are decided, well, now they can figure that out quick and easy, and they're not getting a sales pitch.
That's awesome. That's on your website?
It's on our website.
Let's talk about which website URL again.
So it's a longer one. So I said it over to you guys.
Say slow. That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. So if anything, they can always go to ArizonaVeteransMissionGroup.org.
Okay, there you go.
And anything you send via email, phone, or there's a form on there, goes straight to me. I am the executive director, the secretary, the housekeeper, all of it. So no matter how you contact us, you're going to me, and then I can always send you the link that's on the Stone Rose website. But hopefully maybe you guys can post that, so people can just click on that.
And then on the Stone Rose side, if you want to get to the disability calculator, it's just stoneroselaw.com/veterans law.
Perfect.
That's our veterans law landing page, and it'll get you anywhere you need to go to any articles or any resources you might need.
Perfect. You guys are doing great work for a much needed cause. And Kevin, it's just a perfect example of what we do these things, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, there's probably a lot of veterans who, Scottsdale just started a veterans commission not too long ago, right?
Yeah,
it's only been a couple of years ago we've had it, but that talks about the forward thinking of Scottsdale and how we're really trying to protect our veterans and take good care of them. So this is another good example of a homegrown resource that our veterans can use.
Yeah, and absolutely. We've spoken with that group, and also at ScottsdaleAZ.gov, there's a full veterans resource page. We're listed on there too.
I saw that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of resources here in Scottsdale, and with my background and all my Scottsdale pieces, and of course you guys. I mean, I'm so proud of this city and what we're doing. We are based in Scottsdale. We do service nationwide. So if there's anyone listening that's not based in Scottsdale, we can help them as well. But yeah, Scottsdale is an amazing city doing some great things for our veterans.
Anna and Derek, you guys are both doing great things for our veterans and for our city as well. So we thank you very much for that. And we thank you very much for spending some time with us to talk about it all today, and let us know how we can help you down the road.
Thank you so much. Thanks for letting us get the word out.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Let us know what you think about this too. And we'll see you next time for another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.